Hi everyone, it's Ardith, and I'm here with a fun and easy technique to make a faux enamel embellishment with a die cut, some cardboard, and some embossing powder. I started with the second smallest stitch dot heart die, and I cut two from some scrap cardboard from the back of a paper pad. This cardboard was about as thick as I could cut from, but I needed a thicker shape for the technique, so I just glued them together. This technique is really designed for chipboard shapes, but I love that I can use my own die cuts by simply doubling up the thinner cardboard. Next, I chose 3 different shades of embossing powder, and I carefully poured little bits of them onto the heart. Notice that I didn't use any embossing ink on this. I'm sure you could, but you don't need to. I just kept pouring until the heart was covered. Next, I got a small piece of parchment paper. This is not waxed paper. I think the wax would melt and make a mess, but it's like baking parchment. I just laid it over top of the heart and then I got out my heat gun. I heated it until I could see through the paper that it was melting. I gave the paper a couple of taps with the tip of my heat gun. This kind of smooshes the melted powder around to ensure complete coverage. The only slightly tricky part to this is that when you remove the paper, you need the heat gun still running because as soon as the heat is removed, the powder starts to cool and the paper may stick a bit more to the heart. So be careful with your fingers. Once the paper is removed, leave the heart for a couple of minutes to cool completely. Cleanup is easy on a craft mat. The excess powder scrapes up with an acrylic block or spatula. Next, I stamp my sentiment. I used the big XOXO from Big Love on a panel that I had already trimmed with the second largest stitch dot rectangle die. I knew that the sentiment wouldn't completely fit on the panel, so I left the overhang completely to one side, where I planned to place the heart. I inked up the sentiment with VersaFine Clair ink, and then I embossed it with a clear sparkle embossing powder for some extra interest. To finish the card, I glued the white panel to a black panel cut with the largest stitch dot rectangle, and then I glued that to a white card base. I used liquid glue to put the shiny heart in place. I hope you enjoyed this video. This design is very clean and simple, but the fun technique still gives it a wow factor. And even with all that sparkle and shine, it still has a really masculine feel. Shopping links are below and on Jillian's blog. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.